Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back. We are
Woohoo!
here with our friend Randy Swaim, who's an amazing, we could brag, Marshall, certified Goldsmith, whatever, right, coach? Oh, no, he's just, pilot, thank you for your service. I mean, this man, author, does it all, and it's so hard to even, like, say hi to him every time because it's like, wow. He's just an amazing person, and what he does.
I tell you what, it's a pleasure to say hi to you every time. Don't you wait about
Yes.
it.
Well, thank
I
you so
appreciate you.
much.
You
Same
bet.
here, sweetheart. So please tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and tell me what you want to discuss today.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a key point of sort of leadership today, and I'm going to bring some neuroscience aspects to it that people have to be aware of and everything. But just like you said, aviator, jet pilot, and I'm training and certifying jet pilots, and Marshall Goldsmith coach, master level neuroplastician with the NPN hub over in Germany, and bringing all of that to make other people better. That's what it's all about for me. So, yeah, it's cool.
Oh, well, thanks for being here, sweetheart. So first and foremost, tell us, what's on the agenda for today, because there's always a good story, there's always a good lesson. Obviously, a lot of us, we talk a lot about, not restoration. Oh my gosh, leadership. And I just hope, there's someone out there listening today who honestly, can benefit from this. There's a lot.
And one of the things that I'm going to bring today is one of sort of the dysfunctional ways that this leadership is sort of brought. And I think when I mentioned that, why this is not what you want to do if you're a true leader. If you're a dictator and you're just trying to talk about yourself, maybe so, but that's not good. And so that's what I was going to do on this. And just for people that are looking to become actual leaders,
Yeah.
it highlights one aspect that they want to be careful of and not really do it. And I'll bring out some of the reasons why on it. So it's sort of key from that standpoint.
All right, let's begin. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that when you're talking about leading, leading people and being a leadership, it's not just about you, and it's not just about what you're doing, but it's about you developing your people in such a way that they are becoming such that they can make radical success on a situation that was totally unexpected and that's very aligned with my concept of organizational maneuverability. But what I will do is show the one, because there are a lot of people out there that employ their picture of leadership in a very dysfunctional way where you're not doing that. And I'll talk about why that is here. And it's just a picture of how leaders or people that are leading others want to be aware of this. And first of all, make sure they're not doing it. But second of all, make sure their people are not starting to do it. Because one of the things that can create this dysfunctional aspect is people that are totally focused on themselves, totally, trying to call attention to themselves and things of that nature. And so that's kind of just sort of where I'll go with this. And if you want, I'll first of all talk about the dysfunctional aspect real quick, and then I'm going to bring a couple of neuroscience aspects to it, which, of course, as you know, my friend, neuroscience deals with the
Yeah.
brain chemicals and how the brain works and how it can get in the way where it's not getting you where you need to be, but where some things that you got to be aware of where it is taking you where you want. And these are all aspects of it. But if you see leaders doing this dysfunctional aspect, guess what? At the wrong time and in the wrong situation and all that, guess what? That can be bad. And so I'll just kind of point this out that my guess is that there have been people out there that have seen leaders that are out there, guest speaking or talking to the people that they work with and or whatever and things like this. And you probably have seen people that sit there and while they're at the podium or when they're talking, what they do is they sit there like this and they're pointing fingers and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta do this, you gotta do this, forget that,
Uh-huh. Oh
and
yeah.
you do see people that do that in various roles around and to say it more in a faith-based aspect of it, but you do see people that sort of do that in different roles in different you know, areas and everything. But the bottom line is what people don't understand is when that is what you are doing, guess what? You're taking them and you're telling them to shut their brain off and don't even think about anything. Just do what I said.
Yeah.
And that is not what you want to do as a leader. And I'll tell you what, it's also not what you want to model for your people so that the people that are serving you are growing and becoming, and they can be much better for the organization and everything. And one of the big reasons why that is not what you want to do, that is the bad way to do it,
Mm-hmm.
is because what you're in essence doing is you're telling your people to shut your brains off. Don't talk to me about this. You just kind of go with what I tell you to. On this and da 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 da. Kind of thing. And you see a lot of people that are just trying to give themselves credit because they're going, oh yeah, just do this. This is that. This is that. That kind of thing. And you got to be careful of that. And part of the aspect on that is what those people don't realize is in the neuroscience aspect of it, what you're really in one aspect of it, what you're really doing is generating the norepinephrine concept. And of course, norepinephrine is the chemical that the brain releases so that you can engage in a fight with something, or you can engage with running and run away from something. But guess what? If all they're wanting to do is fight something or run away from something, guess what? Their processing is not understanding the situation, perhaps. Now, if
Yeah.
it's really bad, then yeah, you may need to. And obviously, if you're leading a military organization in the midst of combat, guess what? The
Yeah.
leader, the commander, often does have to kind of yell so that they can get the word out above and be above all the weapons and all of that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is, in most leadership roles, you don't have to do that. And if you're doing that, what you're actually doing is you're trying to have your people put their brain aside and put their mental processing aside and just go with what I tell you, kind of thing. And if that's what you're doing with that, you're not being a true leader. And in fact, if you think about it, with some of the other chemicals that the brain releases, is there's a aspect of oxytocin where, or I should say, oxytocin is the actual
Yeah.
terminology for
Yep.
this
Yep.
one and
Yep.
stuff. Oxytocin is the is a chemical which makes people feel connected with other people around them and things like that. And it's a sense. Also, the dopamine fix. You know what? The dopamine fix is just because you're not taking credit for something, but you're achieving something, and you're achieving something with your team and all of that. And guess what? If you're shutting all that off, you're not really getting the job done. And so when you have somebody who is speaking, or a leader who is sort of acting that way, in that dysfunctional way, you got to realize that they're setting your have wanting you to set your processing and thinking and decision making aside and just go with what I tell you to. And if that's what you're doing, you're missing the boat in leading your team in the environment that you're in. Because not everything is all rote and academic. And you may, when you came up with what you wanted to force into them, you may have come up with something that's not actually aligned with this situation because there are one or two factors that you weren't even aware of when it was coming on scene. And somebody on your team may have been aware of it. But the bottom line is, it's one thing to think about that that's kind of a narcissistic and a
Yeah.
dysfunctional way if that's your role in dealing with your people. And in fact, one of the things that if you have somebody who's struggling on your team, if you just go to them quietly one on one and just say, just shut up and do what I tell you to do, you're not getting the job done.
Yeah.
But if you engender conversations where their mental processing truly takes place, and it's not just shutting their brain off and going along with what you said,
Yeah.
but it's taking perhaps a couple of things you said, but truly processing it in their alignment, in their journey, in where they are, and what they're seeing in this situation, and things of that nature. That is all a key part of that, and it's you got to realize that one of the ways that you become truly successful for your company and your organization is when you're generating your teams better. And
Yeah.
when you program for the future a lot better because of how you really engendered them. And so it's just something to think about on that. And like I say, the neuroscience plays a key role in that. And that's an aspect that a lot of people don't fully understand. Because you have some people, not everybody in today's world, but you got
Yeah.
some people that just sit there and say, "Well, my job's just to tell you what to do. You shut up and do it." And that, what? That is not being a leader if that's what you're doing. And so it's and let's face it, one of the things that is very important in a lot of cases when a situation is kind of on the tail end of a given situation. I've done this a number of times in my career where you sit down with your people and you initiate conversations with the team and you let them kind of share their thoughts, their struggles, their what are they dealing with, and
Yeah.
instead of me just saying, do this, just shut up and do this. You know what? I didn't do that. What I did is I helped them process within their mental ability to process what is required. Because here's the deal. When you understand this
Yeah.
aspect of oxytocin and this sense of synergy and togetherness, but also the dopamine fix of really getting there, guess what?
Yeah.
When they can process that and come to a conclusion. And guess what? Sometimes they're going to come to a conclusion that is not what anybody thought about. But you know what? You can it'd be wild for one of your people if they came to a conclusion because their mental processing was was totally right for this given situation. And the company comes and says, "Oh boy, how did that happen? Come on, let's go talk to them." And you take them in there, and they're just applauding the team for what they did and how they did it and what they came up with. And guess what? It may have a situation that your organization wants to adapt into
Yep.
it because it didn't think about that possibly, kind of thing. And so this aspect that when you're talking about, really sort of leading your team in a challenging environment or an unpredictable environment, like I said, people have seen leaders out there that when they're speaking at a podium,
Yeah.
they just sit there and they kind of yell and they point fingers and da, 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 do this, you got to do this. Or you got somebody else that has a microphone here and they're just going, hey, just do this, da, 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 kind of thing.
Mhm.
If that is all your people are doing,
Oh yeah.
you're not being a true leader. And that's what a lot of people
Mhm.
don't fully understand. And even the people that are doing that, they think that it's all about them just
Oh yeah.
having you shut your brain off and do what I, brought to you here and just do it. But you know what? If that doesn't work in a given unpredictable situation,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Guess what? That speaker is probably going to just blame the people for not getting the job done. Well, guess what?
Mhm.
You shouldn't have you basically taught them to shut their brains down and not think of something. And so it's just some aspects about when you're talking about leading your team, particularly in a situation that is not guaranteed, that is not obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard me say this, I think, on a show a while back. But you know what? When you're talking about the situation and organizational maneuverability, not everything is just this or that. There's a whole spectrum in between those two. And you know what? That what you're experiencing and sensing with your organization, those two, it may be something that is 20% away from one, but 80% away from the other, or whatever, closer to one, not the other, or right
Mm-hmm.
in the middle, whatever. And so having the ability
Yeah.
to truly process their thinking, their arrangement, their assessment of this
Yeah.
act of the actual situation. And what a lot of people do is when they're sitting there just pointing fingers and throwing and yelling and say, if you see somebody that's sort of speaking that way in a way,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just telling people, you got to do this, you got to do this. Now, understand there might be an
Of
aspect of that
course.
that is correct, but you're not getting it across in a way that is truly successful to people. And that's just, and you're shutting their trust off when you do that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people just don't realize, well, not a lot of people, but a good number of people, I'm be willing to bet that most everybody that watches this has probably seen something like that, at least once or twice kind of thing. But the bottom line is there are people out there that that's their mindset about what they're doing. But you know what? That does not get the job done
Yeah.
because it doesn't create your team's ability to process, to mentally process, to understand the situation. And one of the questions, if you think about it, if somebody's struggling with something, so often the manager or the leader just comes up to them and says, "Well, you just got to do this. You just got to do
Yeah.
this," kind of thing. Well, guess what? That's not what you want to do. What you want to do is understand the correct questions to
Yep.
ask. Because you know what? If you ask them, well, what's the struggle on this?
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Well, you kind of implied it. What do you come up with?
Totally.
And get them kind of processing that mentally a little bit. And then once they come up with that, guess what? They can come up with what the right solution is given the situation. And they go, "Oh, I hadn't thought about that before. So is
Mm-hmm.
that the right solution?" And in your mind, you're probably going, "Yeah, it is," kind of thing. But you go, "Is that the right solution?" And they go, "Seems like it." Okay, well, I'll tell you what, and see what factors come up, see what you need to do, and things like that, and encourage them to basically have trust in you and the team, but also have a good process of growth to go where you're going. So it's just that's just sort of what I was going to kind of bring today. Just this aspect that there are some people out there that
Yeah.
sometimes teachers do it, sometimes leaders in different groups, sometimes managers or whatever, and their whole mindset is pointing fingers and really making it so that you're going to just shut off your brain and just do what I tell you to. If that's what you're doing, you're not developing your people, you're not preparing your team for true radical success. What you're doing is basically shutting them down
Yeah.
because they're just doing what you told them to do. And guess what? If it doesn't work, well, I guess that's your fault. I don't know, kind of thing. And so that's just something to
I get
think
it.
about that people need to be thinking about differently when they're trying to make that happen. That's just what I was going to bring. Just this aspect of the neuroscience and the key of it when you're dealing with absolute true leadership and developing your people. Really developing your people to the point where they're not just shutting their brain off and just coming up with what you told them. No, but they have the ability to process, mentally process the actual situation, the realistic situation,
Mm-hmm.
and understand what the right successful solution is. And so it's just one key aspect when you're talking about this, and it's just a key aspect that is very critical.
My gosh, thank you, Randy. Randy, how is the weather in Dallas?
Well, today pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of clouds in the sky, but it's a good temperature and no rain today. Really, there was the last couple of days, but yeah, just seems like a good day for today.
Oh, well, I know with the weather getting a little warmer here in New York, I don't know, just feeling better, feeling more, I don't know, I feel more motivated when the weather's nicer. And I know if you have a job, no matter where you're on the world, that shouldn't matter. But I like to say, I mean, yeah, like for example, I've been seeking chiropractic here because of the car accident I was in last month, and
Oh wow.
yeah, I'm okay, but my neck and the whole car got totaled. I don't know if I told you this, and then I had a flood in my house.
No,
It
huh?
it was a bad January 30th to February 3rd. Then everything's in boxes in my house. Me and my kids are sleeping on the couch because we had this bad flood in the room, and everything's in storage or in a warehouse. Long story
Mm-hmm.
short, it's
Oh
been
wow.
rough, right? So
Yeah.
hear me out. I go to the chiropractor last week, and all the chiropractors are gone. Well, most of them. There was another one there. Turns out, like the owner of the Block Sports, right? That's the name of this company in Long Island, New
Mm-hmm.
York. The owner rented out a beautiful, like two house estate in Florida that has its
Mm-hmm.
own golf course, volleyball course, lake, pool, slide from the house, and to do like a team bonding
Wow.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just saw my chiropractor this morning, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, there was 15 of us. It was amazing, and you could see all the pep in their step walking around, and everyone. I mean, that's part of the team building, and it's nice if
Yep.
you have a boss that's going to take you away to do something like this. But I think
Yep.
those type of retreats and those type of things really do matter, right?
They do. And because it's when you're talking about your team growing or people growing, it's not just about you telling them what to do and they just shut their brain off and go with what you said. You know, that's not what you want. What you want to do is to develop their mental processing, not just to come up with the answer that you wanted them to have, but you can generate the questions in such a way where their processing truly develops a real solution in their mind. And guess what? If you help them practice that a few times, then going forward for the rest of their life, when factors come on scene in some unrelated situation, their brain can get in the way and come up with the right solution.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to do some team bonding. Do you all do that
Developing
still in
people
your business?
and developing your team, and that's a real uh, neuroscience aspect of that a lot of people don't realize. So it's just a key aspect, and what you said is, yeah, you have my compliments on that because that is key. It's not just about you telling them what to do and calling attention to yourself. That's if that's what you're focusing on, you're not getting the job done.
Yeah. Well, in all your years, have you done any type of team bonding with your associates? I mean, what have you done that, I mean, and what you do? You probably do this a lot yourself, no?
Well, yeah, in fact, I do
Business.
because guess what? And this has happened when I was in aviation, you know, flying and military, but also the because this is an aspect that has been developed in me through my journey, professional and personal journey, and but even over at the DFW airport when you're teaching uh, you know, jet pilots and such like that. And you know, a lot of people just, you just shut your brain off and listen to what I'm telling you. You know what? What I do, particularly when you're at this level, you know, kind of thing, what I do is, you know, yeah, you got to spend some time just talking about the system on that
Okay.
airplane. But as soon as you do, what I do is I sort of ask some questions that relate to things like, okay, so how does this apply to your operations, you know, kind of thing. And what do you need to be on the lookout for? What do you need to watch for? And things like that. And I will tell you this that because I bring the coaching and the neuroscience sort of awareness to this, and I think I shared this with you one time before,
Yeah.
Jill, but uh, for one of the big 135 operators that I'm a check airman with, um, in here, I saw the director of operations and a couple of his pilots down in the flight simulator one day. They weren't actually training; he was just showing them some things and stuff like that. And I went down and shook his hand, and he looked at me, and this was the director of operations for this 135 operator. And he said, then he looked at me, he said, "Randy, you mind if I share one thing with you?" I said, "No, go ahead." And he looked at me and he said, "I want you to understand that you are the one person I want my teams working with when they come here." And it, because of the different way that I do it, and a lot of the clients have expressed an understanding and an awareness of the different approach that I take, where it's not just rote academic things and trying to get people to memorize stuff like that, but to really have a operational understanding of it and everything. But I was honored when he noticed the difference in how I do it. It's like I said, I shook his hand. I said, "You know what? Holy cow, thank you." And I said, "I want you to understand, I'm very honored to be a check airman for your
Yeah.
operation and stuff." And it's so it's just it's something that's different. And a lot of people in today's world don't really have any understanding of the concept because it's different than just rote stuff. And but if you can engage the neuroscience and the mental processing in all that you're doing, and not just telling them what to think, but getting their processing going through your questions, that can be huge. And and that's kind of what I do, and that's one of the things that that guy said this about, because he experienced a difference in how I engage with their pilots and stuff. And but it's very key when you're talking about this, but all of this is related to neuroscience. But you know what? Like I said, if you're going along the same way that a lot of those speakers and a lot of those managers are, where
Yeah.
they're just pointing fingers and, "Hey, you do this, do this, do this, shut up, do that, just shut up, do this," that kind of stuff, you're not getting the job done, and you're not developing them, and you're not preparing them for radical solutions.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's one of the things that you got to do for a team, just to know that they can do the right thing and reach radical success,
Yeah.
even in the midst of challenges. So it's just a key aspect of bringing neuroscience awareness to it, and what that's all about,
Yeah.
and why that is critical. And so it's just like I say, just something to think about for people and what they're doing.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you again for being here, for joining us. And how can we contact you?
Well, I'll tell you what, as you know, if they go to my website, coachingforrelevance.com, and if you go to the homepage and right down to the very bottom of the homepage, it has my cell phone number and my email. And you've heard me say this hundreds of times, but if they call me, I don't do cold call, sales pitches or whatever. If they have a need of something, yeah, we'll come up. I will come up with what they need. But on the other hand, if all they want to do is have a short discussion, we can do that. And
All right.
and
Thank
so
you.
yeah, that's where it is. But Jill, it's always a pleasure to be on with you. I appreciate who you are, my friend, and
Thank you
I
so
hope you
much.
have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
I
Week.
will. You
Okay.
too. Bye bye.
Okay.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.